I spent 3 months in Peru and it's my favorite country. Here are my suggestions for the best things to do in Peru. I started my journey in Peru by crossing the border from Bolivia, visiting Lake Titicaca on the way. This lake straddles both countries and is one of the highest and biggest lakes in the world. On the Peruvian side, you can visit the Uros floating islands and see how the indigenous people live their lives. Next, I visited Arequipa, which some people say is the most beautiful city in Peru. There are many museums to check out, but I prefer to just walk around the main plaza, soak in the vibe, and admire the architecture with snow-capped mountains in the background. This is a ridiculously photogenic city. From Arequipa, I did a 2-day hike in the Coca Canyon, one of the top 3 deepest canyons in the world. It was so steep and brutal, some hikers chose to ride horses up. But the views were gorgeous. Next up was Cusco. I love this city so much I stayed here for 5 weeks. Yes, it's touristy, but that's why it's very safe and has a ton of things to do. First thing I would recommend is to join a free walking tour. It's the best way to get an orientation of the city and learn some history. On the tour, you may come across the 12-angled stone. To me, it's just part of the wall like a brick, but to Peruvians, it's a national heritage object because of its perfect assembly. Peru has the best food in South America, so why not join a cooking class? They'll bring you to the market to select the ingredients, then teach you to make the dishes. Speaking of food, definitely eat at the San Pedro market. That's where the locals go because it's so cheap. Even the ceviche. The markets also sell artisanal goods like colorful souvenirs, bags, and Andean-styled clothes. If you are in Cusco at the right time, there might be some festivals going on, so join in the fun. There are a ton of museums in Cusco, from the Potato Museum to Chocolate Museum, but 2 that I would recommend if you like history are the Pachacutec Monument/Museum about the greatest Incan ruler. The museum is just professionally well done. And Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun. It was once the most sacred and important building in the Inca Empire, but now with a church and convent built over it. One of the more unique foods to try is cuy or guinea pig. It tastes similar to chicken, nothing special, but it's a novelty dish. Just right outside of Cusco, you'll find a bunch of ruins worth exploring. The most impressive of them is known as Sacsayhuaman, and depending on who you ask, it was a temple, a fortress, or even a small Inca city. If you're up for it, go bungee jumping right outside of Cusco. This is the highest bungee jump in South America. Or blast off like Superman on a slingshot. Now, the reason I stayed in Cusco for so long was because there are many more things to do nearby, starting with the Sacred Valley. Despite the name, it isn't one valley, it's a range of valleys, towns, ruins, and rivers. The standard Sacred Valley tour brings you to the town of Pisac, which according to my guide, is the cheapest place to buy souvenirs in the region. However, Pisac's greatest claim to fame isn't the town itself, but the rice terraces and hilltop fortress towering over the village. The next town we went to after lunch is Ollantaytambo, also known for its ruins and rice terraces on steep hillsides. It was also the site of a historic battle between the Incas and the conquistadors. Another popular circuit of the valley is to visit Morai and Maras. Morai looks similar to the terraces we saw earlier, but was actually a natural agricultural lab where the Incas experimented to produce different crops. It's pretty cool when you learn more about it. The Maras salt mines was my favorite of the Sacred Valley attractions. The combination of salt flat and rice pods blew me away with how surreal it looks. A popular day trip from Cusco is to hike up the Rainbow Mountain. This mountain has been blowing up on Instagram in recent years. And let me tell you, it's a crazy tough hike because of the altitude. It's a 2-hour hike at 5,000 meters above sea level. My advice, do it slowly or ride a horse up. The view up there is totally worth it. Of course, at Cusco, you gotta visit Machu Picchu. There are many ways to get there and I chose the Salcantay Trek. This 5-day trek is the most popular alternative to the classic Inca trail and only a fraction of the price. Besides, you don't have to book 6 months in advance. It wasn't shabby too. It was once named the top 25 treks in the world by Nat Geo Travel. Together with 16 other people, we went from campsite to campsite with beautiful spots along the way. One highlight is the Umantay Lake, one of those places where I saw on the internet and I knew I had to go. It blew me away in photos and it blew me away on the first glimpse. If you are short on time, you can also come to this lake on a day tour from Cusco. The Salcantay trek was not easy. There were some steep uphill climbs at high altitudes, with some days up to 9 hours of hike, but overall, it was manageable. The actual trek was just 3 days when we ended up at a hot spring and a campfire with cheap alcohol, so cheap that I got so wasted. Despite that, on day 4, I went for the highest zip line in South America. We visited Machu Picchu on day 5 and it was a dream come true for me. After a few days recuperating in Cusco, I did another hike. One where the tour agency told me it's twice as hard as the Salcantay trek. The Choquequirao ruins receive 15 to 20 visitors per day. Machu Picchu has 5,000. Why? Because the only way to get there is to do a 2-day trek across and down a valley and up the other side, and 2 days to get out. There was no road access. In fact, Choquequirao is known as the real lost city of the Incas. My group only had 2 other trekkers. It was so tough we were walking alone most of the time, all at different speeds. It was surreal wandering all alone around an Inca ruin that I felt was on par with Machu Picchu. No other tourists ruining my selfies. So if you want a truly off the beaten track but challenging experience, do the Choquequirao trek. After 5 weeks in Cusco, I continued my journey north. The first stop was to take a flight to see the Nazca lines. These are mysterious giant drawings in the desert that nobody knows why or how they were there. From animals like whales, monkeys, spiders, to geometric shapes like trapezoids, spirals, and circles. There are many theories for the purpose of these lines, but I think the mystery is part of the draw. Not too far away, I stayed the night at Huacachina, a beautiful oasis in the desert. You can sandboard down the ruins or ride an ATV here. Lima, the capital of Peru, is a modern city with many typical city stuff to do, like restaurants, bars, and museums. A more unique attraction is Huaca Pupiana, an adobe and clay pyramid in the center of Lima. It's rich in history and dates back to AD 400, but but I thought it was interesting to see the juxtaposition of ancient and modern architecture in a single spot. Huaraz City, north of Lima, is a great base for many day hikes and multi-day adventures. First up, the Pastoruri Glacier, one of the few remaining glaciers in tropical South America. At 5,000 meters high, the tour went from this to this in a matter of an hour. Although it was freezing, I thought it was fitting to have snow at the glacier. Laguna 69 is a very popular lake in Peru. It was a tough 2 to 3 hour uphill hike to the lake at 4,600 meters. The good thing is, the national park looked amazing. Every time I stopped to catch my breath, I felt refreshed. If you fancy a break from all the hardcore hikes, you can visit the Chavin de Huanta archaeological site, a day trip from Huaraz. It's a UNESCO site that tells the story of the Chavin civilization built around 900 BC. To be honest, it's not that good and the tour was in Spanish. The place is pretty much in shambles and disrepair due to neglect. Huaraz, being in the Andes mountain range, offers many multi-day treks. You can do the Cordillera Huayhuash trek, which is a 10-day trek in the mountains if you're up for it. I did the 4-day Santa Cruz trek and it was enough for me. The landscape was freaking gorgeous. There are snow-capped mountains, grasslands, rivers, lakes and wildlife. There's even a mountain that was once named World's Most Beautiful Mountain. And another that inspired the logo of Paramount Pictures. One of the most beautiful hikes I did. Before leaving Huaraz, I decided to do one more adventure. My first alpine mountaineering experience. You know, one of those where you gotta strap on crampons and use an ice axe to climb up an ice wall. It involved rock and ice climbing, rappelling, scrambling, and struggling in knee-deep snow. I even had one of those intense moments where my arms gave way and I slipped down the ice wall and I panicked for a few meters before managing to lock the ice axe into the wall to stop the fall. And when I finally reached the summit of Nevado Mateo at 5,150 meters, it was silent, lonely, all white, and freezing. I finally knew how it feels to be up at the summit of a snow-capped mountain. I then made my way to Iquitos, the gateway to the Amazon rainforest. I spent a couple of weeks taking boat trips along the river, visiting remote villages, and swinging around like a monkey. Tarapoto City serves as a stop between Iquitos and the north. There is a small waterfall nearby, only visited by locals. More interestingly, you can also visit the Castle of Lamas, a random medieval castle in the rainforest. It is a very pretty castle with lots of attention to details, but super out of place. There isn't any historical significance, just a rich Italian who lived here and wanted to build a castle. The north of Peru isn't on a typical tourist itinerary, but Chachapoyas is worth a visit. The city is the base for two main attractions. Firstly, the Quelac ruins, known as the Machu Picchu of the north. You can hike many hours through this valley to reach there, or do as I did, take the cable car. Unlike most ruins in Peru, Quelac was built by the Chachapoya civilization and not the Incas. I thought the circular houses looked really cool and different. The other major attraction nearby is the majestic Gokta Falls, one of the tallest waterfalls in the world. It takes 1 to 2 hours to hike here, but I'm not exaggerating when I say this could be the most beautiful natural phenomena I've seen after 8 months of traveling. It's a must visit. So there you have it, the reason I spent 3 months in Peru.